If you want to see, I will now show you the Kubrick equipment room.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so you come through here. This actually, through here, was actually where we shot the film. This is
I remember that.
This is
the
the
storage door, right?
That's right.
Yes.
This is the larder. And this is where, like I say, this is where Shelley picks up the knife.
Oh, yes,
Because we shot most of the film in just what we could get of the studio, because, you know, there's very, very difficult to find any space in the studio.
Right,
I mean, the studio is not like, you know, in California.
Yeah.
So we just used every available space. And in fact, this whole room was the kitchen. And now this is the larder.
Oh. このシーンがあるんですよね、稲さん。Okay.
And
Oh, this is actual storage.
well, this is all our camera equipment.
I see.
And this is here I'll show you. This is the camera that I use. This here, the Atom. Beautiful camera.
Yes.
It's really sort of, it's really, I did start using a different camera. And it was very, very difficult because, well, I'll show you what I had on it. So that I could do it by myself.
Yes.
I had my own sound equipment, which is, hang on, I'll show you, which I had strapped to the camera. And I had a hyper-directional mic.
Yeah.
And what you do is that, in fact, Garrett Brown, the guy who invented the Steadicam, he helped me set this all up, because originally I had this thing with bits of string and sellotape, literally, because I couldn't figure out any other way of doing it. And in fact, the most simple solution, which the whole of the Steadicam is put together, is Velcro. And
this is how I show.
And
it's a good idea.
And then this is the microphone.
Yes.
Oh, I haven't got all the mic things, but they're here. This is my sound equipment chest.
Wow.
Kept in great order.
Yes.
And this is in fact a music mic. It's hyper-directional, so wherever the camera is pointing, that's the sound that you get.
Right.
And that would fit in there like that. Obviously, I haven't set up everything. I'll take this off just in case it falls off, because there was another strap.
I see.
And then it just goes up here like that.
You did it by yourself?
Yeah, the whole thing.
All the whole thing.
And I loaded the film and the sound and everything. The sound is actually beautiful. I don't know whether you've seen this. I'm sure you have in Japan. My God! But these take about 30 minutes on it. And in fact, this was developed for the CIA, which is why it's so good. Yeah, because it was for high quality, you know, hidden tape recorders. So the importance of this, which is what the whole reason why I did it myself, is that, you know, I mean, there's 4 of you guys standing over there, all climbing under tables and trying to get out of the way. And obviously, if you have one person, it's less inhibiting, which is the, you know, one of the biggest problems, because, you know, people are just normal, and if a camera's pointed at them, they start sort of, you know, fidgeting and feeling that everything they're doing is silly. So, but really, eventually, what happened is, because I was so young and because I was Stanley's daughter, people sort of got to the point where they sort of didn't quite believe they'd ever really see it. You know, I mean, it's like David Hockney on Bigger Splash. You know, he said that the reason why he became so candid is because he never really quite believed he would ever see it. And so, you know, getting things like, you know, Shelley and Stanley fighting and things like that, there was a point where people just sort of, you know, they sort of ignored me, basically. I mean, obviously, sometimes they would turn around and go, look, go away, you know, because they knew you were filming them. But it's essential, I think, in documentary shooting to do it yourself. And I think certainly this setup worked, you know, I mean, I think the sound is as good as anything any crew would ever get.
Now I know that the documentary was super excellent, you know. Yeah.
So that's and then all of this is just my father's crew. This is the famous 1.7 lenses.
What is it?
This is
lens.
the lenses that we used on Barry Lyndon for the canvas.
Yes.
These were the ones developed for NASA. You see how big they are? These were developed by NASA. God, they weigh a ton. And the reason why they're so big is because They're used for maximum intake of light. They have a .7 f-stop on this. And these, in fact, were developed for space photography. And that's why they're so ridiculously big.
Wow.
So,
They're very heavy.
yeah. And actually, if you want to, you come over here.
Okay.
This is
Yes.
Shelley Duvall's wardrobe.
Oh,
in
yes.
there. This is her dress she wears when
Right.
she goes to Jack and says to him, "What are you doing, honey?" He says, "Get the hell out of here." And all the rest of her junk. This is just piled with clothes in here.
Yeah.
And this is what I used to carry my camera around in here. If you come around here. This is a child's excellent for carrying cameras.
Oh.
Much better than any grip.
Yes.
And this is in fact my cat's pillow.
Uh-huh.
And then I used to just push everything around in this thing.
Oh.
So, so that's how I used to make it. Because otherwise, you know, I mean, all over the studio, you've been walking around, right?
Right.
Yeah, you see there's just masses of ground to cover. But anyway, so I'll leave that. Put that
Very
over there.
interesting.
I can also show you something else if you want.
Yeah.
In here
Yes.
is all the. In here is all the literature on all his films. There's the old programs to Barry Lyndon.
Yes.
You know,
Right.
all these things. There's photographs by the million. I mean, I don't know. There's original artwork. There's all sorts of things here, but best of all, sorry, you didn't make it down there.
Barry Lyndon.
Yeah.
And
Here, this is the fake.
wow.
The beautiful costume.
Beautiful.
And Barry Lyndon,
Barry
they're
Lyndon.
all just sitting in a pile. This is Maurice's
Yes.
morning gown.
Oh, beautiful.
These were all made by Milena and Ulla Britt. They all made all these. But you know the things that's so sad is that you make all these things for films, and then they end up in crappy trunks.
Right.
You know, I mean, this took somebody a long time to make it. But there's no, I mean, that's like, we made 30 doors for for Jack to axe through. So, everything eventually. But there's all the, let's say, all the sort of, like the clapperboard, lampshades and Jack and this actually, I don't know, have you seen the film?
Yes.
These originally, all these, this is a prime example of when you make things and they never come through. There was like months spent on these things to be made for the ballroom sequence, and then Stanley decided that they should all just be plain people and not sort of have mass overview. But there's just, masses and masses and masses of things. Here is, these are 2001.
2001. Oh.
These are all the color plates. What's this? This is, well, you can't possibly see it, but this is one of the plates they use for the back projection for all the ape scenes. And, oh, well, I mean, there's just millions of them in here.
You see it in the back.
Can you see? Yeah. But, I mean, like, these are all the millions of back projection things.
Yes.
And, yeah, these are all the African landscapes.
But you see it in the
And then,
You see it in the
and then these are
videotapes.
But you see, the thing is that most of the things, like, oh no, that's just junk. But you end up keeping, I mean, look, that was used in the film. That stays in the thing until it becomes out of date.
Yes.
It's just that everything gets kept. And so, in fact, all of this is totally useless, but we keep it anyway, for some reason. Oop! watch it. You're gonna.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
And believe it or not, this is Barry Lyndon radio spots here.
Oh.
And this is the way they get kept, you see, in great condition. And well, this is all older stuff. This is like Paths of Glory photographs down there, and you know, various junk. But that's basically what ends up to all the, you know, all those things. So, I can't really think if I can think of somewhere else to show you. Well, I can show you Stanley's office.
Yes,
How about
okay.
that? It's an incredibly boring office. I don't think people would believe how boring it is.
So I'll tell you what I'll do, sir.
Oh, this is the
normal show.
This is Stanley's office. And as you can see, it's pretty disorderly. Let's see. I don't think there's anything
very
particular.
simple.
Yeah.
Nothing at all.
No. These are all his notes for the laboratories. That's, in fact, I think where he is today, because he's doing all the Spanish and South American prints and dubbing and everything. And then he just keeps them in here. And then this is the poor man's filing system, which is locked. But he has just back. Well, you see, he just has so much paperwork. This junk. Then he has obviously all the things that get written about the film. Things. I mean, it's quite haphazard. I mean, you don't always sort of end up finding the things that get printed about the film. But that's article. I think this is Belgium or something.
Do you have father's good picture?
Good picture, Stanley? Well, that was the one thing that was always lacking on the film. I mean, eventually we chose some, but they're not really. These are from the film, you know.
Yes.
These are not. Let's think. In fact, a lot of the stills, because you know, it's very difficult, because what eventually happens is it comes down to inefficiency.
Right.
It was sort of forgotten to take photographs. And so what was done is that sections of my rushes, which were sort of like close-ups on Stanley and like that, were blown up onto 35 transparencies, and those were used as the promotional photographs of Stanley, because, you know, I mean, this is probably the total amount of photographs that were taken of Stanley on the film. But the stuff that I took of him was obviously... What, these? Sure.
Yes, all these.
No, I mean, there's not.
To shoot the later.
Yeah. Well, there's copies all over
After
the
we-
place.
After we go back to Japan, we can shoot this
Here, okay.
as
Yeah, these are pretty crappy, these
Oh,
ones.
it
I
is.
think they were over there because he didn't choose them.
Is that right?
No, I don't think he's got these in the publicity thing. But,
Okay. It's good.
okay.
Okay.
時間ないから
まあ大丈夫です。
時計の
Okay. Let's go back to the room.
Okay.
45分ですね。
マイク向こうだよね。
マイク取ってこなきゃダメだよ。何人だよ。
シュッシュッシュッシュッシュッ。
一人取ってきたら。
ここでね、インタビュー。あ、そう。
Should I turn this on?
Could you explain about the scene? Yes.
Well, the scene.
And, okay.
Shall we show it?
All right.
Okay. Well, this actually is not the room in the end, but is there a main point of this whole thing?
This is a place where we saw.
Well, no. Here, I'll show you. Well, I'll just make it go faster. Now this.
Yes.
I'll show you. This is the door of where we actually went in.
Right.
And let's get him in there. And there we are. Now, that is where I was showing you the sound equipment.
Yeah.
And actually, but the whole of this room was just masses of box of photographs of research for, you know, the inside of what lavas look like and for all the rooms that we used in the film. But this is the bit I was talking about. Just here, this is where Scatman makes contact with Danny. Obviously with no sound, it doesn't make very much sense at all. But anyway, so this is over.
Yeah.
And this is where, I mean, well, I'll keep it running, otherwise you won't see it. But back there, at the very back of the room, is where my cutting room is now.
Oh,
so all of these rooms have served a sort of a four seasons purpose. They've all been used for every single thing. I mean, in the film, for the film, everything.
Okay.
But,
Cut.これだ。
これね、これはどこだっけ。はい、もうだ。
ちょっと待って。いいですか？
はい。
回ってる？
回ってるよ。
はい。
路地でやるからね。
はい。はい、いいですね。
Okay. All right.
Okay.
So.
Thank you very much.
Hello. Yes, I certainly shall. Hello? Hi. Stanley? Yes. Been looking for you. Can you talk now? Do you have a moment?
Well, now is the time, yes.
Now is the time. Hold on a second. Let me pass you on to Mr. Yao, the producer, who's standing with me now.
Is he ready now?
Yes, he's ready.
Okay.
Just 1 second.
Hello, Mr. Kubrick.
How do you do?
How do you do, sir? My name is Jim Yaoi.
How do you do?
Can I ask you some questions?
Yes, of course.
Please. Well, why did you choose a horror story to your newest movie?
Well, first of all, let me apologize for not being able to talk to you in person.
No.
I am, as Julian probably explained to you, I'm running around
Yes.
to various laboratories and sound studios. And
Yes.
I'm actually calling it out from a telephone booth.
Yes, we understand your situation. Yes.
Why did I choose a horror story? You could ask me that question about every film I've made, and it would be difficult for me to answer. I read a lot, and obviously always looking for a film story. And it's a little bit like somebody saying, "Why did you fall in love with your wife?" Something happens when you read a story that you like. It suggests the possibilities of the film, and I thought that this plot was one of the cleverest of its genre, and one of the most interesting. And when I read it, I just wanted to make a film of it.
I see. What do you think of supernatural power?
You mean, what do I really think of it?
Yes.
Well, I don't know. I think that there have been so many interesting stories and reports of people who have had occult experiences. It's a little bit like when there was a famous astronomer who was talking about life in the universe, you know, in other worlds in the universe, and he said, sometimes I think there is, and sometimes I think there isn't. He said, in either case, I find the idea quite staggering, and I think that I would be surprised in a way if there was, and I would be surprised if there wasn't.
Well, do you have such kind of ability and supernatural power?
Say that again?
Do you have the supernatural power ability of supernatural power?
No, I wish
By
I
yourself.
did.
You know, people said that you must have predicting the future and reading the minds of actors and getting image from another dimension.
Well, I wish I could say that I did have supernatural power. No, I think I just try to do the best that I can and hope that people like it.
Yes. Well, what do you think of UFO, which is flying saucers?
Yeah.
People said. Do you think the alien people from another planet visiting our Earth?
Well, I've never really made up my mind. Again, it belongs to that category of stories that it's almost impossible to believe, and yet at the same time, some of the sightings are so extraordinary, and the people who have seen them seem so respectable and beyond, any suspicion that, one can only say that I would, I don't know.
Yeah.
I would like to believe it.
Well, Japanese people love your films, especially Space Travel 2001.
Yeah.
And but people are wondering that what is the meaning of last scene? The old man were lying on the bed and in a very old style house. And could you give us an answer?
I've tried to avoid doing this ever since the picture came out, because when you just say the ideas, they sound foolish, whereas if they're dramatized, one feels it. But I'll try. I mean, the idea was supposed to be that he is taken in by godlike entities, creatures of pure energy and intelligence with no shape or form, and they put him in what I suppose you could describe as a human zoo, and to study him, and his whole life passes from that point on in that room, and he has no sense of time. It just seems to happen as it does in the film, and they choose this room, which is a very inaccurate replica of French architecture, deliberately so inaccurate, because one was suggesting that they had some idea of something that he might think was pretty, but weren't quite sure, just as we aren't quite sure what to do in zoos with animals to try to give them what we think is their natural environment. And anyway, when they get finished with him, as happens in so many myths of all cultures in the world, he is transformed into some kind of super being and sent back to Earth, transformed and made, into some sort of Superman, and we have to only guess what happens when he goes back. It is a pattern of a great deal of mythology, and that was what we were trying to suggest.
I see. Could I ask you the same question about the Shining, the last scene of Shining? You showed the picture, and
did you have? I told Julian to ask you. Did you have any difficulty recognizing Jack Nicholson?
No, not me.
No.
No. We could find Jack Nicholson, but
you weren't sure what it was supposed to mean.
Right.
Well, it was supposed to suggest a kind of evil reincarnation cycle, where he is part of the hotel's history, just as in the men's room when he's talking to the former caretaker, ghost of the former caretaker, who says to him, you are the caretaker, you have always been the caretaker, I should know, I've always been here. One is merely suggesting some kind of, endless cycle of this evil reincarnation, and also, well, that's it. I mean, again, it's the sort of thing that I think is better left unexplained, but since you asked me, I'm trying to explain.
I see, okay. At the end of this interview, could you give to the Japanese audience about your message to the Japanese audience?
What do you mean?
Anything to the Japanese people, is there any message to them
Well,
from you?
just my best wishes, and I don't really understand your question.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Well, is there anything to say about your Shining?
Oh, I see what you mean. Well, no, I never like to say anything about my films because I think that the pleasure that an audience receives in discovering things for themselves is a great deal of what one likes about good films. I know myself, I don't like to read what something is about or to be told before I see it, or what it means. I think the best thing is when an audience looks at a film and wonders whether something that they see is an accident or whether the director or writer meant them to know it. I think that subtlety and allowing the audience to discover for themselves what it is the most important thing. That's why I've always tried to avoid interviews and explanations about the films. I think the film, should be able to speak for itself.
Yes. Well, I understand, quite understand. Thank you very much, Mr. Kubrick.
Well, is that all you want to talk about?
Yes, it was excellent. Thank you very much.
Again, I apologize for not being there. I hope my daughter is helping you.
Yes, yes. She is very good help. Well, thank you very much again.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Bye-bye.
It's like a fad, It was just my friends and me were playing with a Ouija board. You know those things? And I was just playing around with it. And one of the rules is if you get a bad spirit or something like that, it keeps going to no on every single question that you say.
Right.
And I thought, oh God, So I was just being silly, and there's this sort of little ritual you do where you take the glass and you pick it up and you sort of start doing that. And I was a bit scared, I don't know why, but anyway, and I picked it up and it literally, and I'm not lying or anything like this, I'm sure this sounds utterly fantastic, but the glass just went like that.
Wow.
It just sort of exploded. And it just went like that and just fell on the Ouija board just in hundreds of pieces. And I was just, even the base of the glass had broken. Now, I think that a lot of cases, it's the power from you that makes those things happen. Where you start sort of, just the fact that one can feel, if somebody did that, you can feel it. You can feel the energy coming from it. And probably, I should imagine, a lot of that has to do with the fact that one does give out a lot of energy.
Right.
And you're so hyped up because you're a little scared that it just, the collection of energy that's flying around.
It often happens. Yeah. I know the same case, a lot of the same case. And what else did you experience for you?
Well, I mean, the thing is that when you're a child, you get yourself so hyped up anyway, because I was always very frightened, because my parents used to go to parties when we lived in New York, and in New York, the TV goes on until God knows what else. And I was about, 6 or 7 years old, and we had this big house in Long Island, and I used to just watch horror films all night, so, I'd completely freak myself out because I was so terrified. But, there were times like that where I really, I'm sure a lot of people have always felt that maybe something was holding them or touching them or being near them and things like that when I was a child. But I think that so much of that is because one does scare oneself so terribly when one's a child that you just think all sorts of things. But I've often had, in fact, the man who put on my television program in England, I'd met him at a dinner party 2 months before, and I just sort of, talked to him, nothing in particular. And it didn't really register. And he said, oh, well, when you finish your documentary, ring me up at home or whatever. And I'll look at it and see what it is. So, fine. And I'm sitting there 2 months later in my office where, in this house where Stanley was cutting everything, not here, somewhere else. And I was, watching my rushes on video. And all of a sudden I was completely sort of struck by this feeling that this man, Alan Yentl, was going to ring me and ask me out to dinner, which was utterly fantastic because I'd met him once and I hadn't seen him in 2 months. And it just kept going, and I kept thinking, Christ, what am I thinking this for? And I was trying to concentrate. And all of a sudden the phone rings, and I suddenly sort of, it's even stronger that I felt this. And then I went to pick up the phone. He said, hello, it's Alan Yentob. And I said, oh, God, Alan Yentob. Oh, you know, and I said, excuse me, you don't understand. It's just that I knew you were going to phone, you see. And, you know, and I got very hysterical. I was terribly embarrassed because I thought, oh, my God, you know, he's going to think I'm a jerk. You know, I pick up the phone and scream. And then he said, oh, would you like to go out to dinner? And then I just completely thought, this is utterly fantastic. In fact, I can prove it to you. It's in my, if you pass it out, look, I'll show you. Look, this is my diary, you see. Oh, and on January, here it is.
Oh.
See? Almost had a heart attack, was thinking Alan Yentob gonna phone, scream, eek. See? So, but the things like that I find is what happened. But I've never, I wish I could, but I've never seen it.
Have you experienced it, the poltergeist? You know what it is?
Oh yeah, when it moves things around, right.
And, you know,
well,
moving around.
I've never actually experienced that at all. I mean, the only thing that I really believe is that I know that people have seen ghosts. I know that friends of mine have said they've seen ghosts. I've known that they've said they've heard things, that they've felt very strange and everything. But I think that a lot of these experiences are suggestive. You start thinking about it. You start getting frightened. And then because, I mean, there's now a lot of discussion on, for instance, schizophrenia and manic depression, where in fact it's chemicals in your brain that induce certain characteristics. And I'm sure that if one's hyped up enough and scared enough, you can produce enough adrenaline and whatever else you may have in your mind to induce you to see things, to be so scared that you actually do see things. But in terms of actually very strange things, where like there's writing on the wall and God knows what else, I've no explanation for it, and I don't dismiss it because it could be true, but then again it probably isn't true because there's a lot of weirdos. In fact, on Barry Lyndon, I never met so many weirdos in my entire life. In Ireland, most of the aristocrats that live there, I mean, with all due respect, they're a little sort of crazy. And one place we went to where we shot a scene, it was called Huntington Hall, and they were all spiritualists there. And I had the most bizarre conversations where they say, oh no, we have ghost spirits come here all the time, and we speak to them and talk to them. I mean, obviously people do believe it, but I mean, I suppose I would believe it if I really saw something, but I haven't, so.
Okay, let's start let's start your interview. Vivian, how old are you?
Well, now I'm 20. Yeah.
Are you there? Do you have any brothers and sisters?
Yes, I have 2 sisters. They're both older than I am. No, both older. One's 21 and the other one's 26. And the one that's 21 is going to the Royal College of Music, and she's studying opera. And my other sister, Katharina, she's in fact just down the studio. She's working on the Muppets. She does art direction. So that's what she's doing.
And you were doing the editing the film?
Well, I shot the film and then I edited. Well, I finished the editing, obviously, because you've seen it. But, I mean, the things that I've got left now are just sort of tidying up things, like making shorts for Paris News, like when you came in. That's what I was
Are you going to be the movie director?
I want to. I mean, I really do want to. I think that, obviously, it's very suspect if children of movie makers want to be movie makers. I mean, it's a bit sort of, oh, God. But, I mean, the thing about, if you look at all people who are very successful, like, you know, pop stars, they all end up wanting to make films. I mean, George Harrison is producing films. Barbra Streisand obviously got into films, and she's now directing one. And, you know, there's something about films which is in no other art form, in that in order to make a film, you have to go through almost every process that is artistic. You know, I mean, obviously, you know, you say artistic and people start puking. You know, okay, well, it's just a work, but you're trying to do something that ultimately will be considered, you know, artistic. And, you know, there's art direction, there's costume, there's makeup, there's acting, there's writing, there's cinematography, there's, you know, everything you can think of. And you know, because I wouldn't consider myself a, you know, like a physics teacher or a, you know, astronomer. You know, it seems the most intelligent thing to do is to get into films, because, I mean, I've always been interested in photography, and I've always spent practically all my life with my father. You know, unlike, you know, many people who are in the film business, he is, you know, this sounds, you know, corny, but he is probably one of the few people that I know that really does keep his family life total. You know, it's not flying off here and going there and bye kids, see you in 2 years. You know, because every film that he's ever made has always been near home, and it's always been, if we've ever gone anywhere, we've gone with him. And so, as a result, I've always been on films. I mean, I went on to 2001 when I was 6. I mean, that's basically how I got to be in the thing, because I was just, you know, walking around the studio doing nothing. And, you know, I mean, films are fascinating. I mean, that's why people, you know, write millions of books about it, and there's nothing but people talking about films, because it is, you know, incredible. The whole concept of movies is incredible. The fact that people turn out to be enormous stars, you know, gods and goddesses, even though they shouldn't really be. People build them up so much in their minds that they become that. Films are an incredible phenomenon. I mean, I don't think anyone could have believed that it would have turned out the way that it did when they started.
Mr. Kubrick.
Who you're talking to, right? Yeah.
Well, especially the humanity of Mr. Kubrick. How do you see him as a man?
Well, I think what I said previously, the fact that he has never deserted anybody. I mean, that sounds stupid. What I mean is that as a man, I think obviously it's very difficult. If you live with somebody all the time, and, you know, other people write about him and they say, oh, he's a genius, you know, he's a god, you know, and whatever. You don't really see that, you know. I mean, you can understand, but how could one ever live a real life by walking around going, my father, he's a god. Oh, you know, when I see him, Dad, I'll bring you eggs and tea in the morning every single day. You know, it's not like that. You know, he's my dad. I mean, I don't think people realize how incredibly normal it all is. I mean, I was showing you all the, you know, junk that we've got from films. You know, people think that films are sort of, you know, incredibly mechanized and organized and everything. And I don't think people realize how compromising films are. You know, the fact that, oh my God, we forgot to shoot that today. Well, you know, that's it.
What is his personality?
His personality, I think you could probably judge well for yourself on the telephone, that he's very uncomfortable in a situation where he has to talk about, you know, his films. I mean, I don't blame him. I mean, it's very difficult because one never wants to appear to be foolish. And, you know, so, but certainly I think that, excuse my dogs, they're just all freaking out back there. No, I mean, I don't really, the problem about asking a question like that is that whatever I say will sound sort of silly. But basically, in terms of his character, he's incredibly hardworking. I don't think, and, you know, he works constantly. You know, maybe that's not good for him, but he feels that that's necessary. He would feel worse on holiday sitting there doing nothing than if he was actually, you know, reading or, you know, playing chess or whatever he, you know, finds that entertains him. But certainly, I think out of all the people that I've ever met in the film business, he certainly is the most, I mean, I've said hardworking, but he's certainly the most careful as well. You know, I mean, people say, you know, he spends so much time making films. Well, then look at all the films that take a year to make, and they're crap.
So
you know.
How many, you know, holidays does he have in a year or in a month?
He doesn't have any holidays. I don't think I haven't been on a holiday in my entire life either. I mean, holidays are really, I mean, I think if you analyze it, people go on holidays because they hate work. And they go, oh God, another 2 weeks and I'll be on holiday. Oh heaven, you know. And if you enjoy what you're doing, it's worse if you go on holiday, because then you're not doing what you would like to be doing. Obviously, one doesn't sit there, 8:30 in the morning, jump up, go to your desk, work till 11. I mean, it's not like that. Right. But, it's just a calm, normal, consistent progression of work.
Mm-hmm. Well, how is he as a father?
Well, I said, he's terrific. I don't think, I keep having to qualify these things I'm saying because, they would be considered highly suspect if I sit here going, oh, my dad, But I do feel that for him. I feel tremendous respect. I feel very grateful at the fact that unlike many parents, they actually, have a lot of faith in their children. My father has always tried to make all of us and help all of us in whatever we wanted to do. My sister wanted to be an opera singer, so, all our lives we'd have piano lessons, we've had music lessons. Anya used to do operas with Jonathan Miller, the youth. Do you know Jonathan Miller? She used to do children's operas in the Roundhouse in London, and he's always tried. For instance, when I started this film, I didn't like school. I always found school a very different environment to really exist. It was something that I was never comfortable in. So consequently, I left school itself when I was 15. And then I had to get some examinations. So I then went to college, and I left college when I was 16. Spent the summer wondering what on earth I was going to do. I had a lot of friends who were musicians. That's also, you see, my mother's parents were all opera singers. And, it's a very musical side of the family. So, of course, that's always been an arm. My mother was a ballet dancer and the sort of German equivalent to Doris Day in the 50s. She used to, in Germany, she was the sort of little starlet. And in fact, that's how my father saw her. He saw her on TV and just sort of completely fell over himself, because he thought she was so beautiful. And then she, quite coincidentally, she came for the audition of the part for Paths of Glory. And of course, he took his chance. And, but going back to him, he also, when I started this film, he said, okay, well, work in the art department, that's fun. And I was working in the art department when I was 16 on this film. And, I was making models and doing research and making tea and, and I thought, oh God, I can't bear this any longer. I'd like to do what I was doing when I was in school, which was singing and writing songs and being in a band. Now, that probably sounds a bit silly, but anyway. And so he said to me the night I was going to break the news to him that I wasn't going to be in the art department anymore, he said, Viv, your mother and I, we feel that it's about time you made a film. Because I'd always been very interested in films, and I had made many films, in school by myself and things like that. And of course, I wasn't going to miss this chance. So I said, I'd absolutely, God, I'd be totally crazed if I thought, okay, so. And then I just started, and I literally just walked in and just started shooting, just started filming. Dougie, all the crew that work on my father's film have worked on it since the beginning of time. I can't remember when they came on, but all the major people, the focus pullers, the continuity lady, everybody, they all end up being the same people every film. And so they all helped me, get the equipment, learn about it. And then it really was, he just said to me, the only way you're ever going to learn how to do this is to just do it. And you do it whatever way you think you are able to do it. And he would look at my rushes with me and he'd say, you shouldn't pan so quickly, you're not keeping the focus right. And, that's really all that I did. And for a year I was filming everybody. And I think it was then that I was 17, right? And then I finished it when I was 18. And then it took me about a year to go through the material. Because the other thing is I transferred all the sound. Obviously it was on 1/8 of an inch SM tape, and I transferred it all onto this. And I had to do it myself, because obviously people said things that you wouldn't ever want anyone to hear, And so I transferred the whole thing myself, which took me about 2 months, because it's like, just millions of feet. And then it was all transferred onto video. And I watched it on video for about 6 months, just going through it, making millions of notes. These aren't actually the books, but they're somewhere back there. And it takes a long time because, you know, you find things interesting and then you look at it and you go, I wonder if anyone else would find that interesting, whether they'd find it funny. And it's also very difficult because you're trying to at least give character, you know, portray everybody that's important, Stanley, Jack, and Shelley, and Danny, without doing it in a way that appears to be, you know, all these films that they make about films have this very synthetic feel about it. They're all sort of cutty and, you know, like I was saying, you know, an army of technicians comes in and here's Mr. Kubrick, hi, you know, and they're all very sort of, you know, synthetic. It's not real. And so the thing that I hope that this documentary would do is that it does show the reality. It shows that Shelley was jealous of Jack, and that Jack did piss around a lot, and that Danny is very funny, and that my father works hard, and that all these things, and to try and represent it in half an hour. I mean, so.
Yeah, that's the point where I noticed in your film.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very, very nice. You know, it's very good. Like I say, documentary. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Passes very quickly. But,